Okay, we're going to start our linear unit now, so we're going to talk a little bit about slope first. But before we get started, I want to just refresh everybody's memory on unit rate. We did a lot of unit rate work last year. Remember that unit rate is a ratio used to compare different quantities. Okay, and some of those examples from last year from graphing, we had examples of miles per hour. We also said maybe a cost, a price per item. Those are just a couple of examples of unit rates that we used last year. Now, a unit rate is just another way to explain slope. So slope is another way to describe unit rate. And we're going to be able to calculate the slope from a graph, from a table, from an equation. Today we're just going to work on identifying slope on a graph. Okay, so what is slope? So slope describes the direction and steepness of a line. And we calculate that Now we also want to know that slope is referred to with the variable m. M is our slope. So to find our slope, m is equal to the change in the y variable over the change in the x variable. We abbreviate that by using a triangle. Change in y over the change in x. Okay, it's also going to be referred to as rise over run. I want you to think about the staircase. Your rise goes up and down. Your rise goes up and down, and your run goes across. So when you're building your stairs, your rise is that flat piece, and your run goes across. So it's your up and down over your left to right change. All right, there's going to be different types. So let's talk about the types first, and then we will go into finding slope. So there's different types of slope that you can find on your graphs. All right. All right, this is going to be a positive slope. Why? Because your line is climbing. It's climbing. We read the graph from left to right. So here I'm at the bottom. As I go across my graph, I climb higher. This is what we will call the rise over the run. Okay, that's like your staircase, your rise over your run. Okay, second example. This one. This one is a negative slope. This graph is falling down. Starting at the left, it's falling down as you go from left to right on the graph. Negative slope, this would be your rise and your run. So we're going to have negative rise over run, because we're going to count down. All right, there are two special cases of slope. Okay, so this rise is m is equal to 0 over any number that we have, whatever the number might be. We'll talk a little bit more about this as we go along. Therefore, this is equal to 0. So a horizontal line m is equal to 0. Okay, and then the last example that we have, we have a vertical line. You cannot have m equals a number over 0. You can never have a 0 in your denominator or in the bottom part of your ratio. That would make that undefined. Okay, so a horizontal line has a slope of 0 and a vertical line has a slope of undefined. So your slope is equal to undefined. Okay, we will definitely talk more about that as we go along. Okay, so how do we actually find the slope from a graph? All right, so we have 4 examples here. Okay, so now you have this on your CAMI assignment, so you're going to be able to draw right on this as we're going through the notes. All right, so what you want to do is you want to find your slope, which is your change in y over your change in x, your rise over your run. So for every one of these, I expect to see m equals the change in y over the change in x. Okay? So what you're going to do is make a triangle to connect those 2 points. Now, just looking at the first graph, it's climbing. So we know that this is going to have a positive slope. Now count up how many spaces you have for your rise. 1, 2, 3. So my rise is 3, 1, 2, my run is 2. Therefore my slope is 3 over 2. So my change in y, here's my y-axis, so that's my up and down change. That's going to be 1, 2, 3. Up 3. So 3 is going to be my change in y. Over 2, 1, 2, that's my change in x. Now again, we're going to put m equals change in y over the change in x, always. Now this one we know has to be a negative slope. It is falling down. So this is negative. So we're going to go down 1. Connect the 2 points in a right triangle. That would be down 1 and then 1, 2, 3 over 3. So my rise is going to be a negative 1 and my run 1, 2, 3. So negative 1 over 3. Okay, last 2. Again, m is equal to the change in y over the change in x. Now this is a positive slope because it's climbing, so it's positive. starts here, and as you go across the graph, it gets higher. Connect your points. So my rise, 1, 2, 3, 4, and my run is 1. So my slope is 4 over 1, which is equal to 4. So m is equal to 4. Okay, last one. M equals the change in y over the change in x. Connect the points. Now if you notice that that line starts high on the left side of your graph, but by the time you get over to the right side of the graph, the line has fallen down. So this is going to be a negative slope. So count by jumping, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is going to be a negative 4, and 1, 2, 3. So my rise is the change in y, that's negative 4, and the run is 1, 2, 3. Remember, it's a staircase, okay? So that is how we would find the slope from a graph.